So in the very first class, I'll try to explain all these things. We'll try to understand what we have to do in the upcoming sessions. Um, because if you see the corona times, everywhere there is online classes. Even in Delhi, you will find that institutes are closed and everybody is taking online classes. But I'll appreciate Super 90 under the guidance of Ramsar that he is trying his best to ensure that you people are being provided the best faculty of Delhi. Because even in my previous session with the students, I observed the same thing. Right. So first, for economy, you should not have any pre-notions regarding the subject. It tough hai ya kya hai, it's not like that. Because whatever my experience with the previous students, that if you are clear with the concepts, right, basics, then it will not be tough. Because see, we will focus only the requirement of the UPSC, nothing else. That's it. Right? And accordingly, we will plan everything. So, and secondly, if you are having any doubt in the class, you feel free to ask, because the most important thing in UPSC is that you should not leave anything for the future. Kitab karenge, we will do it later on. That later on never comes, right? So starting the first session, that is what to study. Is my PPT visible to you?
Yeah, sir.
That's Indian economy, and this is basically what to study and how to study. We'll discuss that thing. If you see the importance of the economy, you'll find that I have tried to prepare a graph from 2013 onwards, and you'll find that even it has touched 20 question in 2016, right? That means 20 out of 100. It's a huge share. And if you see the syllabus, right, syllabus is comparatively very less in comparison to the other subjects. So it's hanging fruits sort of, right? So that's why it give you, if you're done with economy, then it gives you confidence. This is like I have tried to compile the number of questions which have been asked in the previous years. If we talk about mains, in mains, out of 20 questions, 11 maximum of 11 questions have been asked in the in 2013, and it has around 6 to 7 questions are still UPSC is asking out of this economy. So it is very important, right? Now, coming to the main part, first we have to understand that what we will be discussing, it's basically Indian economy and not economics. What does it mean? It means that we have to understand and apply the theories rather than driving and analyze, right? We are not supposed to neither drive nor analyze. Please keep it in mind. Rather, we have to apply the theories. We have to understand and apply the theories. That means it is, if you see the NCRT of economy, you will find there are certain derivation theories, right? We have nothing to do with that. We have just to apply all those things. Then we have to focus on contemporary Indian economy, right? Contemporary Indian economy means we have to see what are the news regarding Indian economy, and we have also to take into account the major international economic issues, because UPSC is focusing on all the issues which are of international importance, as well as they are having repercussions on the Indian economy, right? So it's not like that only UPSC is only concerned with the issues in the Indian economy. Rather, any international economic issue which is having repercussions on India will be focus of the UPSC. For example, if you see recession of 2008, which started from US, and it uh, engulfed the whole world, right? Europe and Asia, right? So UPSC, it's a matter of focus for the UPSC, and UPSC can ask questions from all those issues. Then if we talk about economy in GS, especially in UPSC, Economy is related to the current happenings. Because it is related to the current happenings, that's why it becomes very easy to understand it and correlate. For example, it is very tough to understand the theory, and if the theory is being practiced, then it is very easy to understand the things. So the beauty of the economy, UPSC economy, is that it is based upon the current happenings, and that's why it is easier to understand and correlate. Secondly, it's a conceptual subject, conceptual and scientific. That means there's no need to cram except certain things. For example, there are certain concepts, like certain facts which need to be crammed. Otherwise, there's no need to cram it. Rather, we have to understand it and to conceptualize it. One of the uniqueness of this economy is that if you have gone through the polity part, then your teacher might have told you that Lakshmi Kant is sort of Bible for polity. But in case of UPSC economy, not a single book can solve your query regarding your syllabus, because not a single book covers the whole syllabus, right? And things are not systematically put in any book. Rather, you can take any. If you talk about NCRT, not a I think not only not 20% of the mains topics are covered in NCRT, right? Though to an extent, 10 to 15% of the syllabus of pre is covered in NCRT, but it's very limited, right? So that's why you have to rely upon multiple resources. So because you have to rely on multiple resources, so the challenge is that what should be the material which should be followed for the UPSC, and um, so the selection of material becomes very important, and that is very important from your point of view, because either you will be studying all those things which are not important from the UPSC point of view, or you will be studying only those things which are important from the UPSC point of view. If you are engaged in all those things which are not important from the UPSC point of view, that means you will be reading a lot. वो बोला cost benefit analysis. Your inputs will be very much higher, but the output will be very less, right? And it will lead to the least efficiency. That's why economy appears to be tough. But if you are selecting the right material or right guidance, then it becomes very easier, right? So my focus is for the selection of the material, right? There are certain myths regarding this economy, that it's difficult. Uh, I don't think so, because my opinion is it's difficult to select the optimum material, the right material, right? And if you are done with the selection of the material, then simply it's not difficult, right? Then, secondly, people say that okay, you have to cram all economic related data. Not at all. Yes, you are supposed to know basic data. For example, you should be aware uh, regarding what is the GDP growth rate, right? You should be aware that what is the inflation going on, macroeconomic data, yani the data which you should know, right? And these are the figures which you might be referring to in day-to-day newspapers. You'll find all these figures in the day-to-day newspaper. So there's no need to cram this data. Rather, you have just to have a specific understanding of the data that it's coming, and I have to take a look of that data, right? But there is no need to cram the data, right? Secondly, what happens that many times while you're writing the mains answers, why this data is important, such data, because when you are clear with the, if you are having the idea that this is the GDP status, and then it gives you confidence. It gives you the confidence while you're writing the answers, right? So a little bit data is required, but not required too much of data, right? Then you have to mug up the concepts in economy. I have already told you that you need conceptual clarity rather than mugging up the concepts. And The next very important myth is people usually say that if you have done currents, then it's sufficient for economy, as UPSC focuses more upon current. Actually, what happens in the later on slides, we will try to understand that UPSC is basically, especially I'm talking about economy. In economy, uh, it is based upon the current happenings. That's why the question will be related to the current things, but it does not mean that they'll not be asking the concepts. Either the questions can be based upon the currents or related to currents, right? But the fundamental will be economy. It's not like that if you have gone through only currents, but if you're not clear with the concept, then you will not be in a position to solve the question. So first we have to focus on the basics, then only we will be in a position to understand the currents. The main thing, the very important thing, the sources for the economy. First and foremost, see, in UPSC, uh, the only guide in the UPSC are two things. What I perceive and think: UPSC syllabus and last year question papers, right? Reason being, the only thing which is being provided by the UPSC is UPSC syllabus and last year question papers. Nothing besides this has been provided by UPSC. So these things will actually tell you that what UPSC is going to ask and what is the pattern of the UPSC for asking the questions. Then comes NCRT class 11 and 12 books. Uh, 11 has now been that NCRT economic development has been shifted to class 12th. So economic development book and macroeconomics of class 12th are the important books from which there are certain topics for pre which are covered in these books, right? And we'll focus on that. Whenever I'll be taking any topic, then I'll let you know that from where you have to go through that particular topic. Economic survey and budget. Economic survey and budget are the only two documents which are provided by the government, and these documents are covering the all the things related to the economy which happens in a year. So economic budget, right? Economic survey and budget are very critical for understanding the economy. You will find many direct questions. Direct questions are coming from economic survey, not only in pre but as well as in the mains. Because they, see, uh, many times it has been observed that the answer of certain questions are only in the economic survey, right? Or which is, for example, I'll give you an example later on. There will be an example. I'll explain it. Economy page. One thing, which paper you people are following, Indian Express or this Hindu? You can put it in the chat. uh, Wait, Hindu. Okay, I think most of the students are following Hindu, right? Okay, see, okay, somebody is asking, Manjunath is asking which paper should be followed. Okay, many of you are also following Indian Express. See, from my side, though it's immaterial which paper you are following, both are good paper. But in the existing scenario, reason being, Hindu is a bit leftist paper, and the government being a be, if you see the government, it's sort of right to the left, right to the center, and Hindu is always critical of the government, right? So I advise uh, students to follow this Indian Express, right? And if you haven't started any paper, then try to go through Indian Express for a month, and then you can take your decision, right? And economy page as well as that editorial of Indian Express is very good. I prefer that, right? Because to an extent it's neutral. To an extent, right now it's also critical because the policies which are to be criticized, it is criticizing that, but you can't be outrightly always criticizing the government, because secondly, you people are going to be a part of the system. So you should have a framework that is not always critical of the government, right? So you have to improve upon, you have to suggest the ways, right? Rather than always criticizing the government. That's only my opinion. Secondly, there is a program, Spotlight on News Analysis on 106.4. This program is basically not only exclusively for the economy, but it is covering every topic which is of the current related. So if you go through this program, it is coming at 9:15 p.m. Right, and it's a 15 minutes program. It's in English, and the beauty of this program is that the panelists are all mostly either bureaucrats or technocrats. So there is nothing that discussion, like there's not um, matlab, illogical discussions are not taking place. Only the logical discussions are taking place. Secondly, everything is very well framed. You will find that the answers put up by the people are very much systematic. They are giving everything in the points, and most appropriately, you are having the opinion of the bureaucrats in that program. So it's a very good program. Please go through it. And not only this, you can find it on this website. They are having AIR India. Go through it. I think you can find Spotlight program on that. And not only this, website is having all these programs. Are You will find the programs which are nine onwards, 9 o'clock. There is news on this 106.4, and 15 minutes news, then followed by Spotlight. Then after 9:30, there are still programs on economy, on social issues, on IR. So it will be beneficial for you. Then other thing is Rajya Sabha TV, which is now Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha TV has been covered. Subscribe to this channel on YouTube, and you will find that uh, many topics related to your syllabus are covered in these discussions. For example, if you are going through in economy, you are going through monetary policy, right? Then you will find n number of discussion on monetary policy. So download those programs, and when you are free, like when you are doing some physical activity, then you can switch over to that your mobile. And when you are having dinner and all those things, all the idle times, you can utilize your idle time for hearing all these things. Because these and even if you are planning to watch news, I'll advise you don't avoid the commercial news channels, right? Avoid the commercial news channels, rather watch Rajya Sabha TV and all these DD news, right? Then coming to the economy, what should be the strategy and how we have to deal with it? See, economy, for my understanding, for your understanding, I divide the syllabus of the economy in two parts. One is static and another is dynamic. Static means if you go through the syllabus, you will find many of the things has been stabilized in terms of policy or theory. That means, for example, if we are having topic of inflation, and you'll find that if if anybody says that what is the static part in inflation, then you will say that the reasons for the inflation, like cost push, how it is happening, demand pull, right? It has been theorized, right? That if they are the reasons for inflation, then if anybody is asking you that there are certain indices of inflation, these two indices, wholesale price index and consumer price index, all these are already in place, right? So that means this is part of their uh, static part. That means it has already been stabilized in terms of policy and theory, and it's not. It has nothing to do with the current. It has been going on from long and long, right? If I talk about that, what is the dynamic part in inflation? Then dynamic part in inflation means that there was recent changes in 2016, and at that time, government and Reserve Bank of India has a framework. They signed a framework. The government signed a framework with Reserve Bank of India, and in that framework, it was decided that now onwards, Reserve Bank of India will have the objective of inflation targeting, right? That means 2000, for 2016 onwards, for inflation, it becomes the dynamic part. This term inflation targeting becomes the dynamic part, concept of inflation targeting. And in 2016, this broader framework was signed. It was known as monetary policy framework. For your understanding, in 2016, I think we discussed that there were 16 or 20 questions in 2016. It was in pre. It was because there were many economy related developments in 2015. And that's why so much of questions were asked in 2016, right? Because UPSC is tracking the contemporary developments in the economy, and they're asking questions based upon those developments, right? Now comes that whether we have to only follow the current part or the static part, right? What I discussed in the initial slides. See, the issue is that UPSC can, for example, the developments were related to inflation, right? All the current developments were related to inflation. So UPSC can either ask all the current related development to that topic, or they can ask you the static part of that topic. They can also ask you that what is cost push inflation, right? What is demand pull, right? So that means either they can ask from the static also. It's not only necessary they will be only asking the current related topics. Keep it in your mind. That means we have to prepare static as well as the dynamic questions, dynamic syllabus. That's why I started in the starting that you are not only supposed to go through only the current, right? First, you should be clear with the static part. That means you should be clear with the concepts. So, economy is all about dynamic and static part. It's not only about either the dynamic or the static part, right? So, in economy, we will be focusing on static as well as the dynamic part. First, we should be clear with the concepts, that is static. Then only we will be in a position to understand the dynamic part.